All right, I'm gonna plug it in. Hello. Let's start standing and let's take a ball. Any small-ish ball will do. This could be even bigger than this. It could be softer than this. And if you feel you're troubled standing on one leg without holding on to something, get a chair and just have it there just in case, because we're going to do a little bit of standing on one leg at first. Okay, because we had a request for working on feet and toes. So, all right, let's do it. What you're going to do first, well, I'll take my right foot. We're going to place your foot on the ball here. Now we're going to try and find a little bit of a sassy hip to stand on, as always. Helps us with balance, and we're going to keep the standing leg slightly bent. And so this is a sequence. Let's just start just moving forward and backward from the toes to the heel, and you might have to adjust kind of where your ball is. You don't want to be going like this, so you're coming off of the back foot, but you want to just be able to just gently press and not to the point of, whoa, this hurts, but just rolling forward and backward. And this is actually not so easy. Your foot might be going kind of this, and you're like, wow, why can't I keep track of my foot here on the ball? But just a little forward and backward. And just see, you might already feel quite a bit of work in your standing leg. And then we're going to come and set the heel down. So right foot is slightly in front, heel is down. And we're going to bring the ball just underneath the toes. So kind of at the ball of the foot and the toes where they meet. And we're going to try and take the toes, and this might be surprising how hard that might be, and wrap them over the ball. So in a way, as if you wanted to pick up the ball with your foot, which will probably be quite impossible. And then you're going to pick your toes back up, and you're going to wrap the toes over the ball. This is actually really nicely done with a towel or your underwear on the floor. You're going to wrap the toes. It's like trying to pick up things with your toes is a beautiful, beautiful exercise for your toes. So we'll do this 3 more times. Make sure you're still bent in that left leg, left knee, foot is really working, hip is sassy. And if you need to hold on to something, have something there, right? It's all good. And we're going to lift the toes. We're going to wrap the toes over the ball. And you might even feel that your foot might want to cramp. And that's a good sign. It's like we're using muscles that you're not using on a daily basis, maybe. Because you're wearing shoes, barefoot walking is the thing. We're going to now keep the heel down. I hope you can see this, how my foot is now just pivoting, and the foot is pivoting to the pinky side and to the big toe side. But the work, the movement is really originating in the hip joint. And you all know this, like that's where we're moving our hip, our leg from the hip. And having that ball there, it's really nice to find that little pivot here, side to side, while the heel is down, internal, external rotation. Very good. And now we're going to come and just slightly lunge on the foot. So we're going to shift that right knee a little bit forward, and we're going to shift back. So this is going to help unload that left hip. We're going to shift forward and shifting back. And as you shift forward, you're going to feel the pressure increase. You might even feel some sensation in your calf on the right, so a little lengthening sensation. We'll do one more time. We're shifting forward, and that's what pushes the ball with your foot a little bit more down into the floor. And then you're going to put the heel of your foot on the ball, toes are down. And then we're going to go ahead and pivot the heel side to side. Just little, not too far that you're losing the ball, just little heel pivots. This is really important for balance, especially as we get older. That proprioception, that ability in the foot goes away. And I would say it doesn't have to go away. It goes away because of years of not using our feet to the full extent, especially, again, I say barefoot walking. Find a piece of grass in your neighborhood and walk on it 10 minutes every day. Your life will change. Very good. And then just, we'll do one more set where we're rolling. And now you can maybe increase the pressure a little bit and see how my right knee is slightly bent. You don't want to roll this on a straight knee. You have slight bend. It's, I think I'm kneading dough. I'm kneading the ball with my foot. And you can even say, can I roll a little bit more on the arch? And maybe I roll a little bit more on the pinky toe side of the foot. And then we're going to just come to standing. No ball. And just check this out. So I would argue probably your left leg feels really worked right now. But checking in with your shoulder and just checking in, we're going to shift a little side to side, check in with activity. You might feel more held on that right side. So as we're doing our side to side shift. And then we'll check out one more thing. We're going to come into a forward bend. Bending your knees, feet are parallel, and then just allow, head is heavy. And even if you don't bend as much as usual, see how one side of your body, the right side and the left side, compare to each other. And most people would argue and say, wow, I can touch with my right hand the floor already much more than with my left hand. It doesn't have to be the case, but that's what a lot of people say. Wow, my right side feels longer. And then slowly coming up, keep the head heavy, pull the feet down into the floor, really slowly round yourself up. Very good. Okay. I can tell, because I know my right side is usually my tighter side. I can tell already that there's some good change happening. And even just checking in, wow, how does that right foot connect to the ground? And how does your left foot feel compared to that? That would be the beauty of rolling out your feet on occasion. So we'll do the other side. We're going to have a little sassy right hip, slight bend in the right knee. And then we're starting easy breezy forward and backward. Now you're the boss of how much pressure you want to put into this. And this could feel tender. I'm not going to lie. This is depending on what shape your feet are in. This might actually feel really painful. A softer ball would help there. Of course, tennis ball is pretty gnarly there if you push down, but see if you can roll big toe to inner heel, and then second and third to middle heel, and then pinky toe to outer heel. So we're basically covering the whole surface of your foot. And then we're going to set the heel down, keep that bend in the right knee and the slight sassy hip. And then we're going to wrap the toes. We're trying to squeeze and lift up the ball and then let the toes release. Maybe you can pull them towards you. We're going to squeeze and wrap the toes. This is something that we're doing at the studio quite a bit when we're on the reformer in footwork, where we're wrapping and pointing and doing all kinds of stuff with the toes. It's really, really good. Squeeze and release. We'll do 2, squeeze, release, and then hold the squeeze. It doesn't have to be your maximum squeeze. And then we're just going to go ahead and pivot. The heel stays in place, and you're going to let the big toe be heavier and the pinky toe be heavier. And the pivot is happening not only in the foot, but it is happening with an external rotation and an internal rotation in your thigh bone. That pivot is part of single leg balance, right? If that pivot is gone or goes away, you're going to be less steady. You're going to have a little more, as long as the foot pivots or the ankle pivots, gives you much more stability on top. If that is too stable, your ankle is too rigid, you're going to have more pivot on top. That's not what we want. We want our top to be solid and our foot, our hips can move, right? That's really important. Very good. And then we're going to go to the arch, and you're just going to do, oh, sorry, wrong. Come back to the toes. We're going to do our little lunge. So I'm reaching my left knee over the second and third toe, and I'm going to shift back. It's kind of nice to give that right leg a little bit of a break. Shifting forward and shifting backward. So here we're looking at ankle flexion, dorsiflexion, the flexing, the pulling towards us. And I'd say probably that's most people's hindrance to go down to a full-on squat, is the dorsiflexion in your ankles. Very good. And then we're going to come to the arch. We're going to just roll a little bit on the arch. And then we're going to come to the heel. And here we are. We're going to press the heel gently down, and we're going to pivot side to side. I like to think of, and this is not a very healthy image, but stomping out a cigarette. If that means anything to you, like on the heel. Just side to side, little pivots. And you can even increase the pressure a little bit. Feel the hamstrings turn on. And then we're going to go again, front to back, back to front. Whoa. That feels definitely interesting in there. Outer, inner lane of the foot. And then ditch the ball, just come to standing, keeping that slight bend in your knees, and just even feel again, going side to side. Do you notice any difference in support, in activity in the leg? And then let's find another forward bend. Sits bones reaching back. Knees bending. I definitely feel that I'm less likely to shift back on my heels here. So my toes feel way more engaged and part of the foot, and helps me with my forward bend here. And maybe at this point, both hands are evenly deep on the ground or evenly firm on the ground. If your hands don't touch, it's actually, you will feel it even more if there's one side that's longer than the other. And then slowly, keeping the head heavy, you're going to round yourself up. Very good. So I hope this is helpful. Looking at, your feet are so important. I mean, we're standing on our feet, and if our feet are not part of the whole, we can work our glutes as much as we want. If our feet are not doing what they can do, it's just not quite the same experience. So we'll stay standing for another moment here. We're going to have the feet about shoulder distance or outer hip, not anatomical hip distance, but outer hip distance. You're going to bend your knees, and we're going to start to do little hip circles here. The hands can be on your hips, kind of nice to feel with the bent knees, not straightening the legs. That's a little too mechanical, but we're keeping the knees bent, and we're going to just circle. When you come to the front next, hold for a moment and pull the feet down into the floor. I want you to, because extension is always much trickier because we don't want to just extend for the lumbar spine. This is most people's more weaker spot. We want to keep the glutes engaged. And by pulling your feet down into the floor, you'll feel that hopefully. Going to the right, going to the left, keep the kidneys lifted, and going to the front, and we're going to pull the feet, turning on your hamstrings. This is, in a way, our bridging moment. Let's reverse the circle. Feel the shifting, weight shifting. How much can I go to the left? How much can I go to the right? And we're never pushing range of motion. We're just exploring it. It's not about going further. For most of us, it's going less far. One more circle. As you're to the front, pull the feet down, work your legs. Very good. And just shake it out. And then we're going to do one more little forward backward thing. Feet are in an asymmetrical stance. I have my right foot forward, my left foot is back. And we're going to pull the feet down into the floor. And since they're now so engaged in there, this should feel really good, I hope. So your feet pull down and back, and just standing like this with the tucked toes. So that's also a position that we rarely assume. Really good to open the bottom of the foot up here on top of what we already did. We're pulling the feet back, and then we're going to send the hip just a little bit forward. And that slide, sending the hip forward, should start to activate definitely your left glute, right glute probably as well. Now, squeezing the shoulders a little bit together and maybe lifting the gaze a tiny bit up. By lifting the gaze, you're going to mess. The brain's going to be maybe a little more unstable and unsure. If lifting the gaze feels very wobbly, don't lift it. And then we're going to push the feet down into the floor. We're going to round our spine, and we're going to push. This is our cat and cow that we do seated a lot. We're going to do it standing today. Pull the feet down into the floor. Squeeze the shoulders, lift your heart. Keep your glutes on, so that those pulling feet need to be very engaged. And we're going to push, rounding. And we'll do one more time. Pull the feet back. Kidneys stay back. Squeeze the shoulders. Maybe lift your heart more. Maybe lift your chin more. But you're not letting go of your glute and abdominal muscles. And release. Shake that out. And then we'll do the other side. Right foot is in the back. Left foot is in front. And the stance could be fairly wide here. Don't be too narrow, because that means we have to pivot too much with the upper body. So fairly wide stance. Doesn't have to be a huge stance. It could be tiny stance. And we're going to just stay for a moment, pulling the feet down, slight bend in both knees, slight sassy left hip. Pull the feet down and back. Feel, okay, my hamstrings, my glutes are turning on. And this is a cool little exercise to do waiting at the checkout line. You can stand with both feet parallel and just think, pull down and just celebrate the legs, give them a little love. So here we go. We're going to pull the feet down and back, squeeze the shoulders. The pelvis moves slightly forward. I'm going to lift my heart. And then push the feet down and forward. That's what sends the pelvis back. We're rounding the spine. And pull, shoulders squeeze together, kidneys stay back, lifting the heart. Keep your bent knees. Push forward, pelvis comes back, rounding the spine. Find your breath. One more time, pull the feet down and back. Slide sassy left hip. Squeeze the shoulders, maybe the heart lifts more, but you're going to keep your abdominals very engaged. Kidneys really drawing back. Maybe you're looking side to side. That's definitely advanced. And then let that release. Very good. And then, excuse me, come onto the floor. Glad I have some water here. We're going to come to sitting. And we're sitting in an asymmetrical position. But if you're, well, we all are still working this. I didn't want to say, if you're still working on sitting in an asymmetrical seat, we all are. So you're going to sit as high up as you can. And especially if we have hip issues, Jana, you know, this is okay. You just want to sit as high. So your pelvis is going to be as, I'm so sorry. I'm going to close the door. Maybe this is like pollen coming in. You want to sit as symmetrical as you can. So my right foot is forward here. My left foot is by my side. And we're going to just do a little bit little anterior posterior tilt. Basically what we just did standing. This is very healing. It is very therapeutic for the hips. And it really keys us into what is moving our rib cage. We don't want our ribs to move our hips. We want our hips, our muscles around the hips to move our hips. And we have many options. So we're gonna choose the option of hip muscles moving hips. Little pelvic tilts. Maybe just one more set going backward. And then we're going to end up going forward and staying really right on top of those sits bones. And then pushing them a little more down and maybe a little more back. And then push both knees down into the floor and reach both knees a little bit more away from each other. This is, you should right away feel glutes are on, pelvic floor might be on. You might feel this in your rotators. You might feel this in your legs. Find your breath. Breathing wide into the rib cage, into the back, into the side of the rib cage. Are you still working? Are you still engaging down with the legs? You might not, because it's very hard to maintain tone in the body. This is why we're usually hanging more, because it's so much easier and less energy expenditure for the body. Being here, and then we're going to start with a little forward bend here. The idea is that my pelvis is tilting forward. Put your fingertips on the floor, and you might come off of that pillow now at this point just a little bit. Keep the kidneys coming back. And all we're going to do here is push severely down with your knees and shins and breathe. Push the earth down and maybe slightly behind you. Use as much support from your hands as you need. If you feel like oh, wow, I might not even need support with my hands. You can just be in this weird asymmetrical forward bend, working your hips like crazy. Find your breath and then push down into your legs to come all the way up. Very good. Let's straighten the legs. And we're just going to go twice hip width, maybe not super far. I'm going to turn maybe this way. And we're going to pull the heels down into the ground and pull the sits bones back. Here we go again. I would invite everybody to find 5 minutes a day to sit on the floor in weird positions. That could be a weird position. Weird in a really good way. No, this could be a weird position. This could be a weird position. The more we challenge the hip flex, the better. So here we are, we're sitting, sits bones pulled back, kidneys softened back, pulling the heels down into the floor. Let's go for a side bend. My right hand is reaching, my right elbow is on the inside of my right knee. And don't worry, this is not about touching your toes here. It's just about creasing that right hip more. My right hip is pulling down way more. You should feel your right hamstrings. We're going to roll through the center. I'm going to side bend to the left elbow on the inside of my left thigh. Pull down with the left heel to come up. Or reverse it. We're going to go over that left hip. So the crease is deep. It's not about super duper rounding. The brain wants to do the round and touch those toes. Don't worry about it. Pull the sits bones back, pull left sits bone back and pull the left heel down. And here we are in our side bend. We're going to roll through the center, both sits bones reaching back. And we're going to go to the side, pull the right heel down and come up. Very good. And then cross the ankles. So we've been in external, internal rotation. We've been in abduction. Adduction is next. And we're just going to do little circles here again. Pulling from the pelvis, turning the legs inward. You can squeeze the inner thighs as much as possible here. Now stay, next time you come to the right side, stay here. Pick up the left hip a little bit. Try not to use your hands for that. If you have to, you do it. And then go to the other side. Feel how much work you have to come up with in your core. Going right and left, you're sitting in a boat and you're rocking the boat. And then release that. And then we're going to come to sit the other side way. So the left foot is in front now. Right foot is to the side. I'll show the side again. Again, making sure we're sitting comfortably, right? If we're sitting like this, or one hip is really far up, rather sit on something. Practice the sequence. I'll give you 3 weeks and you're gonna sit much better. So we're gonna go ahead and doing our little tilts here. Go really slow and dig your sits bones a little deeper into the pillow every time, literally. Can I connect deeper into the hip? And then next time your sits bones come back, you're going to do your forward bend, push the legs down into the floor, pull your knees apart, back up the kidneys. We do naturally want to be in an extension here. That's not so good. We're going to pull the kidneys back. So the spine is draping just like in a forward bend. Use your fingertips, push the knees down, pull the knees apart a lot. Celebrate the legs. Engage them around the bone. I like to think I can hug my muscles a little closer to the bone. And you know, that might work for you, that might not work for you. But visualizing that gives you some tone here. Find 1 or 2 more breaths. And then with or without your hands, push down into your legs to come up. And then we're going to straighten the legs again. Slight, you know, decent size straddle, bending your knees. And we're going to side bend over the left leg. Left elbow is on the inside of the left thigh bone. We're going to roll through the center, over to the right, pull down to come up. We're going to go in on the right, roll through the center, and pull down to come up. One more side, one more time. Think of pulling and pushing with your sits bones to move your ribs, actually. So the pulling of your heels and the pushing of your sits bones. Last one, nice arc of the rib cage over the leg. Kidneys back up as you are in your forward bend, going into the other side bend, and then come all the way up. And then you're going to cross the less likely. So if you feel like, as I said, they cross your legs, do it the other way around. Because where we're going mostly, that's our more comfortable side. So we definitely want to work the other side. And let's just rock the boat here. Going over to the right hip, left hip lifts up, and then going to the other side. And just see what's possible here. Make sure you're not hyperextending your knees. Can I just pivot side to side on my sitting bones? Beautiful. And then take your pillow away. And you're going to come just sitting on the floor. And we're going to start with our roll downs. We're going to do this in a couple of stages. We've worked already so much on flexing and extending the pelvis. So now we're gonna put this even to greater use. Starting to roll back, maybe 1/4 of the way. And then pull the heels down and pull your sits bones back. And when you come forward, and this is all marked, doesn't have to be straight legs. Please do not have straight legs. As you forward bend, can you pull the kidneys a little more back? And you should feel some engagement in your abdominals. Now, can you keep that engagement in your abdominals and just roll your pelvis back? And maybe we'll go 1/3 of the way. And then pull the sits bones back to come up. Keep your kidneys back. Here's my forward bend. Let's go halfway. Pelvis rocks back. Check in with your shoulders. Are your shoulders tensing up? They might. Let them soften. Let the kidneys fall back a little bit more. Pull the sits bones back to come back up. And let's go for the whole roll down. Heels pull down. Your hamstrings are on. Your glutes are on. You're going to slowly, or slow as you can, set everything down. And then maybe reach your arms overhead, flex your feet, and just yawn into this shape. Find your breath, like spreading the ribs. But since you're yawning, you're not just stretching something, you're resisting. You're Oh, maybe the right side reaches more, maybe the left side reaches now more. So there's a little alternating side elongation, yet with lots of tone. And then reach your arms up to the ceiling. Let's do just a little abdominal curl. Hands go down by your side, turn on your glutes, and look at your toes. Check in with your skull. Is your chin pushing up, or can you drop your chin and settle the brain back a little bit? And then lower your head back down. So easy breezy, little abdominal curl, cervical nod. Hands go down by your side. Head lifts up, looking at your toes. Maybe there is a little more lift. Maybe you can say, oh, can I make my ribs slightly levitating? And then lower back down. Reach the arms overhead, flex your feet. Big breath. Now let's go a little further. You could stay with the cervical nod. You could go to this little levitation. Can I lift? So head and heart lift up, lift my ribs. Maybe I can lift just into a third or fourth of the way of coming up. Slowly lower back down. Reach the arms overhead. Big breath in. Let's come a little higher. Maybe we'll come halfway. Keep pulling your sits bones back and pull the kidneys back. We try not to lead with the ribs or the shoulders. Roll back down. So this is a really good way to work your way up to a full roll up if you're not there yet, right? And even if your legs lift and you roll up a little bit, who cares? You're going to come all the way up. Pull the heels into the floor. Walk your sits bones a little more back and work your hamstrings. Turn your inner thighs in. Make sure your neck is long, the back of the neck, the front of the neck. We don't want to lead with the chin here again. We're looking down, where maybe we're looking even slightly towards the pelvis. And then we go for one more roll, but we're going to do our oblique roll, letting the pelvis tilt back. Take your left hand to the left. So we're like maybe a third of the way down in the roll down. You don't have to go super far. It's actually, I feel like it's almost harder not going all the way down. We can move our head and neck more. So here goes, my left hand goes out to the left, not going here. I don't want to rotate in my lumbar spine. I'm going to keep my right hip heavy, and I'm going to lift my left hand up. I'm going to follow her with my eyes. And once the hand is back to center here, I'm going to pull the sits bones back to roll myself up. Let's do this on the other side. I'm going to roll down, third of the way. Make sure your pelvis is evenly weighted. I'm going to take my right hand out to the side, just straight out, maybe even less than straight out. You want to make sure your left kidney and left hip is not moving. You're going to lift your right hand up. In that moment where that arm goes up, you keep your kidneys back. The back wants to extend. Let's not do that. Roll to come up. We'll do that again. Rolling back. You should feel this. You're going to feel this in your quads, in your hip flexors, in your belly, hopefully in your legs. Rolling back, even weight in both hip bones. When in doubt, make the right hip a little heavier and shift your ribs a little more over to the left. Look at that left hand. That rotation in head and neck is already gold. Looking at that hand, keep the kidneys back, pull yourself up. Last one, rolling back, left hip heavy. Shift the ribs a little more to the right. You're going to feel this, how your ribs want to comp out and go to the left. Can I keep my ribs in line with my pelvis? I'm just turning. I like to think rotisserie chicken. I'm not going to shift. I'm going to rotate. Right hand to the right. Follow with your eyes. Slowly coming all the way up. And then if you need a pillow, for your head. Grab that when you're up here, and let's roll all the way down onto the floor. And just take a little moment here. Support your head, please. You know who you are. Please put something underneath your head. I'd rather have a little something underneath your head right now for the next exercise than not. The moment we start bridging, we're going to take it away. But for the next part, head support is fine. We want to make sure that the front and the back of the neck are evenly long. Okay, here we go. We're going to do one more bigger abdominal challenge, going a little bit more into that oblique theme that we already did with the roll downs. So we're going to lift our legs into table. Take your hands to your rib cage here and just soften the ribs toward the floor. Gently press them lovingly toward the earth and notice what happened. Hopefully, you're going to feel a little more engagement in your abdominals, in your core. Let's just do a couple of little leg pulses here. My sits bones are dropping away from my rib cage, so they're really heavy. My kidneys are really heavy as I am pulsing. We don't want to pulse up and pulse the ribs up as well. Then change the amount of pulse. Maybe the pulse is this big. No problem. The thing we want to cultivate is no rib movement when I'm moving my legs. So can pulse one leg and then the other leg. And they got to get toasty here. Slowly lower one foot and then the other. Yeah, they get toasty. Reach your arms up to the ceiling. We're going to lift our legs into our table. And then we're going to reach the legs just a little straighter. Don't go all the way, please. And then we're going to abdominal curl to the left. Now, looking through your hands, imagine you're holding something here, pillow or something. Take the legs a little more to the right. And so maybe here comes our rocking boat again. I'm picking up my left hip. Slowly rotate everything to center. And then the legs go over to the left. You're going to take your arms to the right. Look through the center of your hands. Maybe you're going to pivot so much onto that left hip. Maybe the left leg goes a little further out, and here comes the shake. Keep the chin down-ish. Don't let the chin lift up. You want to look through your hands. Go to the other side, take a break, or go to the other side. We're looking through our hands here, finding your breath. Breath is actually like the thing that's not going to make us freak out too much. Slowly rotate back to the other side. Keep lifting the heart and dropping your chin. Maybe that left leg goes further. Maybe the right hip lifts up completely. Come back to center. Bend your knees. Release everything. Straighten the legs for a moment. And just check out what just happened. You might feel some tingling and tone underneath your chin. That would be great. It's a really good way to get out of that forward head position if we can tone the front of the neck more. And that's what we're doing literally with our roll-ups and our anything where you lift your head off the floor in a good way. You're helping that. All right, we're going to bend the knees. You're going to put the feet flat on the ground. Remove. So if your pillow is really high, I mean, I would say who I know is on the call right now, you can keep your pillow if you have one, right? We're not going to go extremely high. I'm going to remove mine because I necessarily don't need one to just lie on the back. But we want to make sure that your chin is not coming up like this. And I'm exaggerating, obviously, but that would not help the neck at all. We want to look straight up to the ceiling. But because we're lifting the pelvis, I don't want to end up in this position if your head is too high with the pelvis lifted. So feet are fairly close together, about maybe 2 inches apart, 3 inches apart, and let the big toes turn inward. Heels are slightly apart. And we're starting with a little pull here. And today I want to get the emphasis really into the shoulders. So you're pulling your shoulders as much as possible. And this is mostly the shoulder blades. It's not so much getting all of the upper arm down into the ground, but pull the shoulder blades into the ground. Pull the feet into the ground and drop the kidneys and drop the sits bones. And with that idea of shoulder blades pulling and feet pulling, we're going to elevate the pelvis a tiny bit. Make sure your pants are still touching the floor or the mat. Find your breath here. Soften the kidneys, soften the ribs, work your feet, work those big toes, and then slowly lower the pelvis down. Let's do that again. You're going to pull the feet into the ground, sits bones heavy, kidneys heavy, lift the pelvis maybe a little bit higher. Find the pull in the shoulder blades. Maybe lift the pelvis a little more by engaging your hamstrings and your shoulders and your glutes a little bit more. And again, this is, I'm going to show bad version. This is not about lifting your pelvis all the way up here. This is how little can you lift your pelvis? Lower down. One more time like that. I'm going to pull shoulders, feet. Let the big toes be heavy. So there's a pronation in the foot. The inner thighs are dropping towards the earth. So the sacrum can widen. The glutes have a different activity here. Diaphragm area, bra strap area, really heavy. Are your shoulders still working? Mine just weren't. So I'm going to pull with the shoulders, pull with your thumb and index fingers. Just really let the triceps pull down into the ground. Use the whole upper arm and then slowly lower down. Straighten the legs for a moment. Check in with the body. Feel the activity, the tone, the tingling maybe in the back chain. Maybe you're lying a little bit flatter on the ground. Maybe your body is sinking a little bit more into the mat or the rug, wherever you're on. And we're going to go ahead and bend the knees one more time and walk the feet really close together. And we're going to now go into our single leg bridging. Feet pull down, shoulder blades pull down, the sitting bones are heavy and the kidneys are heavy. I'm going to lift the pelvis up. And we're breathing here. And then we're going to go to the right. So the right hip is going to be slightly sassy. Make sure your right big toe is heavy. And see if you can pick up your left foot. Drop the kidneys. Maybe your left leg can reach up to the ceiling. And then step the foot back down. Right, make sure your left big toe is touching the right big toe. And then shift the pelvis to the left. Keep pulling with your shoulders. Now, pick up the right foot. We're going to go a couple more times each side. And you can just keep the knee bent. You can just barely lift that foot off the floor. But you want to notice on the side, on your mobile side, the side that your hip will go without asking any questions. You're going to hold that hip back. We're going to go back to the right. Pick up the left foot, soften the kidneys, work your shoulders. Maybe that left leg reaches up to the ceiling. Put the left foot back down, shift to the other side. Lift up the right foot, reach the right foot up, flex the foot, tone the right leg. Lower the right foot back down, come back to center, lower all the way through the pelvis, straighten the legs for another moment. Check this out. Just feel the length in the spine, hopefully in your lower back. Maybe your ribs are a little heavier on the ground. Maybe all of your ribs are touching the ground. And then slowly turn onto your side. And then all the way, slowly make yourself up, make your way up to kneeling. I'm going to come to hands and knees. We're going to finish up with a little challenge, getting up off the floor sequence. So here we are. And this is, I'm going to give a couple of options. There's no like, oh, this is the right way, or it's really just practicing hip flexion, knee flexion, ankle flexion, toe flexion. So here we are, hands and knees. And we're going to shift a little bit to the right. So the left hand can get lighter, and we'll just step that left foot forward. Anywhere, you try your best in stepping that foot on the ground, and you're going to take it back. And we're going to shift a little bit to the left. The right, we can come on, tent the fingers a bit, and then put that right foot down. If this is tender for your knees, you might want to put a little pillow or blanket underneath your knees. My rug is pretty cushy here, but I still can sometimes feel that. So we're going to shift back to the right, and we're going to put your left foot on the floor. Try to plant the foot. And even if you're here and you take your hand and take the foot a little bit more forward, so your foot can be flat. Very important, because what we want to get to is coming up. If your foot is not planted properly, the chances of going sideways are pretty high. I'm going to put that foot back, shift to the left. Right fingers are tented. You're going to bring that right foot forward, or use your right hand to step it forward. We're going to do this one more time each side. This is not easy. This is lots of abdominal strength actually required if you want to do this without hand, to pick up from your core and your hip flexors. And then we'll stay here with the left foot forward. We're going to tuck the back toes if they're not already tucked. And then with the support of your fingers, you're going to pick up that back knee. And we're just going to go, and we're going to shift slightly forward and backward. Let your head drop as much as possible. So the legs do opposite things. The left knee is bent, the right leg is long, and then the right knee bends and the left leg becomes longer. Find that breath. It's getting dicey for those left hamstrings, right? I can feel it too. Things heating up. Let's do one more if you can. Right quad should be talking, and you're going to bend that right knee, and you're going to step the left foot back. Take a little moment. Maybe sit on your heels. Let it settle a little bit. And then coming back to hands and knees. And we're stepping the right foot forward as far as you can, or assisted with your hand, picking up the back knee, left knee's up, and we're going to do our little jiggy, forward, backward. Use your hands. Maybe if your hands are not touching the ground, maybe get yourself a pair of blocks, thick books, something that's stable that you are able to touch the ground with and assist yourself here. Shifting forward, backward. This is literally lubricating your joint. Make sure your right knee and your right second and third toes are lining up. One more time. When it gets really dicey, like you feel your muscles, then do one more if you can, and then lower down. And then step that right foot back. And then widen the knees. Make sure your toes are together. And just come into, either supported by a pillow. You can always put a pillow underneath your shins and practice a little bit more of the knee flexion. The knees are supposed to bend and extend and, to their fullest capacity, and mostly we're working somewhere in the middle, or we're resting in hyperextension. So finding a way of practicing full knee flexion. Take a little moment if you're comfortable here. If you're not comfortable here, come to just sit on the floor and find a little activity down in your shins. Easy shoulders. Softening the kidneys a little bit back. Keep the activity in the shins, pushing down into the floor. Feel the legs still on slightly, supporting this shape, and then let it go. And we're done. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know if this was good for the toes. If you want to do more foot stuff, I'm always open for requests. And I'll see you soon. Bye.